Qooco webinar hosted by VF Franchise Consulting. I would like to welcome you. My name is Robert and I will be the MC for this webinar today. Just a few things to remember before we get started. We will follow up with you in the next few days via email with some brand information. So please look out for our email that will come, and that will explain or allow you to review the information in a little bit more detail. We will also have a question and answer session after the presentation. Due to the large number of participants, please type your questions into your device as your audio doesn't work. It has been turned off. You can enter your questions at any time during the presentation by clicking on the small question mark in the bottom right-hand part of your screen near where it says type your message. If you click on the question where it says ask question, you'll be able to see that on your screen in a second. Just wait for it to come up. So here down at the bottom of the screen, you see where the little question mark is. So just click on that and then you can type in your question. And at the end of the presentation, we will address each question one by one. So again, welcome. And now I would like to introduce to you our guest speaker, Mr. Sean Ngo. He is the CEO of VF Franchise Consulting and the international representative of Qooco. So now we'd like to hand over the webinar to Mr. Sean.
Fantastic. It's so fantastic to see so many people interested in this particular brand, Qooco, who we are so honored to have as a new client. And the way that they are delivering English learning solutions to the world is truly phenomenal. And like Robert mentioned earlier, my name is Sean. I am the CEO of VF Franchise Consulting. For more information about us, of course, you can visit our website, www.vffranchiseconsulting.com. And similar to Qooco, we have a host of franchises that are available throughout Asia, and some of them are in F&B, they are in retail, they are in services, and of course, like Qooco, they are also in education. So before we dive into the details of the presentation, I'd like to show you a brief 3-minute uh, recap of what Qooco and their English learning solutions offers to franchisees throughout Asia.
Sorry, sir. Do you know how I can get to the subway station? Metro, the underground train.
No.
Underground?
No.
Underground train?
No. Sorry.
Excuse me. This way, sir.
This way to the train?
Yes.
It's nice. Thank you. Gracias.
Look at our classroom. Look at our classroom.
Oh, it's so dirty.
Oh, it's so dirty.
Let's clean it up.
Let's clean it up.
Okay, I'll clean the board.
Okay, I'll clean the board. Look at our classroom. Oh, it's so dirty.
Okay, you may start the test now.
Video about Qooco. And as a reminder, please hold off on your questions until the end of the presentation. We will try to limit it to approximately 30 minutes or less and leave ample time for Q&A, especially with the number of guests that we have online today. I think that should allow for a robust discussion. Moving on to Qooco. Qooco was actually founded by American entrepreneurs who are experts in technology, as well as experts in education, specifically language learning educators. And over the years, in a very short amount of time, we've built a business where we are delivering digital training on the English level to students of all ages, and in some cases, even adults. Uh, Qooco has also partnered up with Trinity College London in the UK as part of their academic rigor to ensure that whatever the kids are learning through Qooco's platforms are being rigorously tested and results are produced for the children as well as satisfying the parents of those children. And similarly, even though most of our discussion today will focus on English, uh, Qooco also offers a similar solution for Mandarin learning through their technology and platform as well. Today, arguably, English is the global language of choice, but that landscape is shifting, and many feel that Mandarin is the next global language, and that is already taking place today. A little bit more about the size of the English language learning market. According to a Adroit market research firm, they have estimated that the global English as a second language learning market will grow about 7+%, 7.1%, all the way up until 2025. So that's 7.1% per year, reaching a total market size of approximately 55 billion US dollars. Now, the digital component of ESL learning is obviously not as big. Today, it numbers in a few billion. I believe the latest estimates are about 3 billion US dollars as of 2018. But that is expected to grow to over $11 billion over the next six to 7 years. So enormous fast growth. Whether it is through the traditional classroom method or whether it is through the digital platforms. As mentioned earlier, Qooco was actually started in China a little bit over 2 years ago. So it's actually been it's a very new business, but it has experienced incredible success in a very, very competitive marketplace. There is no other more competitive market than mainland China. And in a short amount of 2 years, they've delivered millions of hours studied over those 2 years. They have 70 centers plus already opened. They have 50 more signed and in development centers that will be opening over the next 1 to 2 years. And their growth in mainland China continues to be geometric for the most part. And that's only obviously for the English language component, because obviously there isn't a need for Mandarin, which is where we see a pretty big opportunity for others in the region where both English and Mandarin may be interesting to students and their parents. A common question that we get asked a lot when we meet up with prospective franchisees and investors is how effective is digital education, especially in this particular sector? As the traditional classroom methodologies required a foreign teacher and classrooms and homework and the typical brick and mortar type of business. Qooco over the last few years has done an incredible job in delivering this online digital platform learning tool for students of all ages, where they basically study for 15 minutes a day. And a few slides later, we'll talk a little bit more about the actual weekly schedule of what a typical student goes through when they go through a typical lesson in a virtual Qooco classroom. And this particular slide shows that when the students were tested for similar grade levels, um, they outscored their peers who were not Qooco students. As you can see here, the grades tended to be very, very impressive. The vast majority of Qooco students, over 95% of them, get graded A and Bs, and well above other students that did not have those type of scores. In fact, for other schools, the students tended to get a grade C and not so many A's and not so many B's. And again, this is a testing by the Trinity College of London in something they call the GESE exams. And what that exam tests is listening and speaking skills in English. In addition to the enormous fast growth throughout mainland China, we have also seen that in the schools that are already open in China, the retention rates are phenomenal. And it's a combination of the results driven programs, but it's also the fact that when students learn online, it is very, very convenient. And the program is structured in a way where we do not make it boring. It is technology driven. It is AI driven, and it requires a very minimal amount of time on a per day basis to become better versed in spoken and listening in English, and of course delivering very very good results for the students. Looking at the other spectrum, and obviously the reason why so many of you are here on this call, in this webinar, is obviously the return on investment. And it is a phenomenal business, as you can imagine. The the education sector as a whole, in general, if done well, already gets very, very good returns on investments. And when you take that traditional brick and mortar education business and now you convert it into a digital business, boy, do the numbers become much, much more attractive. And a little bit later in this presentation, we shall see what some possible returns are for typical franchisees of Qooco. And of course, again, it depends on where you select the location, how you are marketing the business, how good is your team in terms of supporting teachers and students and parents. But all of those things, all of those tools, Qooco has pretty much put it in a grab and go package for you as a franchisee. And so again, return on investment can be anywhere from 1 year, in some cases, well under 1 year, and in other cases, it can be a 3 year time frame. As mentioned earlier, I mean, education and the growth of digital education is explosive. While the traditional brick and mortar business is growing about 7%, from an online perspective, it is growing in the double digits. And every educator, every training center understands this, and certainly Qooco does as well. And the fact that they've built a technology that is heavily focused on AI, artificial intelligence, because a big part of it, of course, is voice recognition. And so they've got experts in voice recognition who are working on and continue to improve their products so that it continues to deliver great results to the students and to the people who are using their platforms. And of course, this can be proven in the GESE exams that they take at the end of the year for their specific levels. And one of the key things also, which we will address, is the fact that we also do offer language coaching, not necessarily learning, but coaching with a foreign teacher in the US. And there are actually over 10,000 professional teachers in our network that are in North America, primarily meaning the United States as well as Canada, that Qooco students, once they sign on as a student, over a year-long program, will have access to these foreign teachers. So why is Qooco Club successful? Now, Qooco Club is just a term that the franchisor has termed for their specific centers. And it's really based on value proposition. And, you know, that value takes into account not only the cost and pricing of the training to the students, but also to the results focus that the program delivers to its students. And that can be proven. In addition to that, obviously, convenience is a very, very big factor, whether you're a child or whether you are an adult. Traffic is horrible in many big cities around the world, and certainly in many parts of Asia. And depending on where you're logging in from, we see a good representation throughout Southeast Asia. So convenience is very, very important, and that's why the structured program limits each daily instruction through either a tablet of any type or a smartphone of any type, whether it's Android or iPhone. And all it requires is 15 minutes of instruction on a daily basis. And with that, as you can see from the one of the earlier charts that we presented, uh, Qooco has been able to produce some very, very good results compared to their peers. And of course, the technology that allows all of this to happen, including the artificial intelligence and something we call the iFlip classroom, which allows students a certain time of access to foreign teachers that we mentioned that are based in North America. Now, when you compare the Qooco learning platform versus the traditional way of teaching English, clearly these are the strengths of Qooco and why it is so differentiated. Uh, to date, we know of no other major player in this space that has had the success that Qooco has had over the past 2 years, especially in mainland China, which we believe is the most difficult market and the most competitive market. And funny enough, in mainland China, the focus is not on tier one cities like Beijing or Shanghai. It is more focused on tier two, all the way up to tier five cities. Cities where access to teachers, especially foreign teachers, are difficult, but also incomes are lower than they would be in tier one cities. And the fact that it is not your traditional English center, the centers themselves are more for events and activities, group activities, events at the center, and less about a traditional school. So technology has taken away a lot of the old, boring, it does not work phenomenon. And it's very interesting because if you follow this industry, EF English is a company that teaches English worldwide, and they do an annual survey of English competency throughout the world, and of course, Southeast Asia and Asia in general are ranked. And it turns out that in many countries, we do not see any type of improvement in English proficiency in those specific countries. In fact, some countries, even places like Thailand and Vietnam, have slipped in their English proficiency, despite the fact that there are tens and tens of thousands of English centers in virtually almost every country. So we know it's not because of lack of demand. What we do know is that the results are not they're not being delivered to the students, and certainly those types of promises are more often than not are not being delivered. And the way Qco aims to fix this problem of delivering high quality English learning again is based on the fact that it is affordable. It is not positioned as a cheap solution. It is an affordable solution, but delivers superior results, right? So their students tend to do much, much better when they are tested. It is easy to monitor. For some of you who saw the video earlier at the beginning of this presentation, you can see that because it is 100% technology based, students can follow along to see where their strengths and weaknesses are, all based on their either iPad or tablet or smartphone. The parents can also follow along to see how their kids are doing, and also the teachers. The teachers can follow along with each individual student to see what their strengths and weaknesses are, so that when they do come on the last day of the week, whatever that last day is, uh, the teachers on in their one-on-one session can address some of those areas where they are weak in, and maybe perhaps encourage and motivate areas where the students are strong in. So from a monitoring perspective, from a quick efficient feedback perspective, the technology is hands down significantly better, more effective, and certainly more convenient than your typical measurement that most brick and mortar schools provide to their students and their customers. Mobile applications of all types, as mentioned earlier, and because it is digital, the content can be created in a more entertaining way, because we know based on research that students, especially younger students, learn much faster and much more effectively when the content is more entertaining, as well as keeping them engaged through voice recognition, through other mechanisms of AI. All these things tend to produce results for students to build their confidence and their motivation factor, so that they complete what they signed up for more often than not. And at a very high level, this is what it looks like. Students learn 15 minutes per day. They practice in school. Again, this would be done usually on the fifth day after all their lessons are done. And they would come to class and they would do a quick eye test that you see here. And then they would also do group activities with other students. And of course, all of this can be reinforced with a virtual discussion conference with foreign teachers, either in the U.S. or in Canada. This is how it looks from a typical weekly activity. You can see here the first day, let's assume that's Monday. The students review their vocabulary and kind of revise what they learned from last week. On Tuesday, they learn new vocabulary, again, with a focus on listening and speaking. On Wednesday, it is more practice and the use of that new learned vocabulary. On Thursday, it's really a revision, a consolidation of all the things that they've learned over the week. And then, of course, on Friday, we do some testing as well as more group activities and to build on for the next week's lesson. And this is where we believe is a huge advantage, especially with all the issues of getting visas for foreign teachers, getting permissions and licenses and recruiting costs, and the fact that foreign teachers, some of them are quite good at what they do. The vast majority may not be as good as promised. And many teachers, of course, are younger and are looking to travel the world. Not and teaching is certainly not a profession for them. So, what you have is a system in place where we deliver best practices to learn English as kids in countries like the U.S. or Canada, or where native English speakers grow up, learn in a very natural way. They listen, they repeat, they speak, and they learn vocabulary, etc., etc. So it is all taught in a very natural process with highly digital format that doesn't really require any teachers to deliver this program. And of course, again, if the students choose to have a coaching session with a foreign teacher, all of those solutions is offered through markets like the US and Canada, where there are over 10,000 professional teachers already signed up on the Qooco platform. And when the student gets on that call with those teachers, uh, on the screen of that teacher, they will have all the test results. They will have all the activity logs of the students so that they know what the students are weak in, what the students are strong in, and can focus that coaching session during the limited time that they have with that particular student. And this is a typical process again, where when they are on a call with a foreign teacher in North America, these are the steps that they would go through. It is again based on best practices. We do not leave it to the whim of a foreign teacher. It is we. This is the structure. This is a proven structure. We've worked with educators to ensure that when the process is followed, superior results follow. And so again, there's a focus on vocabulary and pronunciation in terms of making sentences and grammatical patterns. All that stuff is built on through small talk and then eventually through free talk. And free talk is really talking about a subject that the students are most interested in. And that could be anything. That could be life in America. That could be their favorite sports team, etc. And because of this entertaining, more edutainment program where uh, students have a lot of freedom in terms of their topics of interest, but at the same time are building the basics to learn and speak and to listen in English, you find that that is why Qooco continues to have one of the highest retention rates in the English language industry, and certainly explosive growth as of yet, with 70 centers already open in 2 years and another 50 already signed and in development and likely to open it up in the next 1 to 2 years in China alone. Now, I'm not going to go through this in detail. One of the key things that I wanted to make sure that everybody on the call understands is you will get a copy of this presentation. So there is no need to print screen and save and copy and paste. We will get this to you so you will have the full details. And certainly here, what we're showing is how Qooco translates into testing and exams throughout the world. Most of these tests are actually based either in the UK or with a CEFR, which is the Common European Framework for Languages. So again, all of our instruction is very, very methodical. It's proven, and it links up and ties up to all of these particular exams that kids normally take as part of that journey to learning English and becoming fluent in the language. And here are really some of their clubs, right? Again, we don't really call it education centers because there's no specific English teacher at the Qooco Club. It is more of a place to review, revise, take exams through iFlip, to do group activities together with other students who are of similar levels, and to do one-on-one sessions with the coach or a counselor at the Qooco Club. So again, it's really a gathering place, more so than your typical classroom. So here in a Qooco Club, you will see there are no specific classrooms. It is all very open space. Students get to work and discuss together, to do things together, etc. So very open and very lively and energetic place to be. And here are some actual pictures of Qooco clubs throughout China. And again, lots of open areas. Everybody's got their iPads or smartphones, right? You do not need any laptops. You do not need any personal computer. All the students need is some sort of tablet and again, some sort of smartphone. What are we offering to the franchisee? Well, we're offering a proven business model that has more often than not resulted in very high EBITDA. And when I say EBITDA, that's obviously for many of you, you know EBITDA. It is earnings before interest and depreciation and amortization. In this particular business, specifically based on the examples that we have provided, it is not uncommon to have 30% plus EBITDA for one Qooco club. So again, we're looking at very, very good EBITDAs in this sector. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, the education sector in general has better EBITDA performance than, let's say, for example, an F&B franchise. In addition to that, we give you support from a Qooco Club Design Center. We help you choose location. There are certainly guides and all the updates to the actual license and software that the students will use as they move from one level to the next. Now, again, this license here is available not only for English, but it is also available for Mandarin and in markets where the franchisee believes there's a good opportunity, a good business to deliver Mandarin learning solutions to their specific markets. Of course, being a digital business, we have a 24/7 technical support team. So franchisees will always have somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to support them if there are any technical issues. Obviously, unlike your traditional brick and mortar learning center, where if new materials come out and are produced, you have to import them, you have to print them. None of that takes place with Qooco because obviously any updates to the software, to the learning materials are all updated digitally so that the user and the customer feel no difference than yesterday, except that now they're getting more complete and updated contents and hopefully better content. And of course, all the training support for your team to launch the business in your particular marketplace. Well, now we're getting to the really important point. I know that's why you all stayed on this call with me for the last 40 minutes, and it is to get to these potential investment figures. So, from a high level, we are offering for one Qooco club a franchise fee of 25,000 US dollars. That is a one-time fee and you may operate and own that Qooco club for 5 years. After 5 years, of course, you would do a renewal, and that would be for the same term for 25,000 for the next 5 years. Now, you will see there on the slide something called a license key. And this is really your learning materials that you are offering to students. And so you would buy in packages of 75 key licenses at per time, per occasion. And you would, so that basically, if you buy 75 key licenses from Qooco, basically that breaks down to approximately, or I'm sorry, exactly 200 US dollars per license. And what that license allows your students to have is 1 year access to one grade level using the Qooco platform. Now, you buy it at $200. All the Qooco's in China today are selling that one license to the students at 1,000 US dollars. So your cost is 15,000 US dollars. That's basically your cost of goods sold, the learning materials, and you would resell that to the students uh, and reap a $60,000 margin for 75 students, basically, for a 1 year program. So that's 75,000 you would receive as revenue. You pay Qooco 15,000 for that license key for 75 of them. Monthly marketing spend, all your marketing to promote Qooco and to sign up students, to raise brand awareness are done locally in your market. You and Qooco will agree as to what that amount of marketing spend is, but none of that goes to Qooco. You spend it for your own benefit as you grow the business in your particular market. And of course, again, because we're talking small centers, the Qooco clubs on average are around 150 square meters. In mainland China, the cost to build one Qooco club is less than 50,000 US dollars. So obviously, China is not the cheapest market. So depending on where you are based, the cost of building that one center will likely be lower, and certainly in some cases significantly lower, depending on where you are. Now, um, we don't want to give the impression that we are giving guarantees because no franchisor can give any guarantees. We do have a few centers already open in Indonesia. So this is something where we take an average example of one particular center. Their initial investments for one particular center was approximately 65,000. That included the franchise fee and the cost to build one Qooco club. You can see here that the cash return, not the regular profit, but the cash return over 2 years is approximately 280,000 US dollars. And to calculate the value of that business at the end of 2 years, you would, in this particular case, they're taking three times EBITDA, which is basically three times 135,000. And you can see that the total return is about almost 11 times what that initial cash investment is. Now, if you are not familiar with these financial terms, please do not worry. We can review them with you on a separate call as we follow up with interested parties who are interested in Qooco for their territories. Now, the one thing I must remind everybody here is we are not looking for franchisees who will open up only one center, one Qooco club. We are looking for multi-unit franchisees. If you are in Jakarta, if you are in Manila, if you are in Bangkok or Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi, we are looking anywhere from a minimum of 5 to 10 centers that you will open up over the next 5 years. And again, that just depends on how big your territory is. This is the steps that we need to take in order to grant the franchise to the right franchisee for their particular market. The webinar, of course, is a unique event that we have done, and we will likely do that later this year. But the next step is, as Robert mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we will be following up with everyone with an email with a franchise application and a confidentiality agreement. If you are interested in next steps, you will complete the franchise application, sign the NDA, the confidentiality agreement, and we will set up another call to speak one on one with you about this particular opportunity. At some point, if you are interested and continue to wish to move forward, we would then review your business plan, and then, of course, arrange a meeting with you and the franchisor, the owners of Qooco, either in Beijing or perhaps in another country, perhaps Singapore or perhaps even Thailand. Again, an in-person interview will probably not happen anytime soon in Beijing for obvious reasons, but certainly we all hope that this particular situation that is happening there will subside and hopefully end for the better. And I think that's from a high level. That is the process. And again, we will help you go through this entire process. Okay. So, what I would like to do is we've got a lot of good questions here that we have, and we'd like to go ahead and kind of switch that over. So, please go ahead and continue to submit your questions as needed, and we'll go from there.
Sean, for sharing a lot of useful information about Qooco to us. And as Sean mentioned, now it's time for the question and answer session. So please remember you can ask Sean your questions by typing them into your device. And you do that by hitting the question mark near the bottom right of your screen. And then you can just type your question and we'll do the questions one by one. And so our first
So,
question, go ahead, Sean.
okay, yep. So Lisa asks, do we get exclusivity in our city or country? Um, yes, you do get exclusivity for your territory. Now, obviously, if you're doing 5 centers in Jakarta, that will not give you exclusivity for Jakarta, or Greater Jakarta. Just obviously, there's nearly 30 million people around Jakarta. So, but what that means is if you clearly mark your territory and where you plan to put a Qooco club, that is certainly something we can agree to. Now, if you want an entire country, you are looking at many units that need to be committed. It would not be for 5 units, and certainly, even in a place like Jakarta, you would not get exclusivity even if you promised 10 units, just because of the size and the opportunity in that particular territory. Okay, so here's a great question from Justin. What are some of the challenges you see for opening the first center? Well, I think one of the first challenges will likely be is finding the right location. And even though instructions in your typical brick and mortar learning programs are done digitally with Qooco, students don't have classrooms. They do need to come to the center, to the club, in order to do their group activities, in order to do their one-on-one coaching session once per week with a counselor, a coach at the Qooco Club, and also to interact with other students. That's part of the joy of learning English, and it's a very motivating factor when you can see people or people who have become friends with you as you have been studying English together. So you'll want to find centers that attract and are easy to get to, whether it's connected through public transportation or has adequate parking space, or within walking distance of something, etc. So typical locations can be in shopping centers with exterior access. They can be in community centers where there are other classrooms targeting both old and young in different areas and different activities. So And of course, they can be standalone centers in residential neighborhoods where you think a Qooco center, a Qooco club would work. In general, the guideline is that you could have a good Qooco club business in a location where the surrounding neighborhood has a population of a minimum of 10,000 people. And that's a good rule of thumb that has worked very well for Qooco in mainland China. As a follow-on, uh, the question is, how can I get more specific financial information? A great question. We always, are interested in giving correct, accurate information to prospective franchisees and investors. Obviously, it is our hope and Qooco's hope that the franchisees become very successful and renew their agreements, but not only renew, but continue to grow the business over time. The financial information can be shared with you once we get the completed franchise application as well as the signed confidentiality agreement. Lin Ko asked, where is your Qooco club usually located? School vicinity, malls, recommended square meters? Very good question. We partially kind of answered that question a little bit earlier, and that is they can be in shopping malls. Obviously, not every shopping mall. They do not need to be in high end premium shopping malls. They can be community shopping malls. What is most important is the traffic, the foot traffic at those malls, as well as the frequency of customers, whether it's heavy on weekend or whether it is heavy traffic throughout the entire week. Locating Qooco centers and clubs near schools is probably a very good idea. And we certainly have many centers in China today where they are in shopping centers and they are located near other schools, whether they are public schools or kindergartens or even other schools that focus on other programs like mathematics or science or arts. All those things, I believe, are possible locations. Again, what you will find is you'll want to make sure that wherever you put your centers and clubs, that it is easily accessible by students and parents. Of course, the recommended square footage, square meter, again, the average size of a Qooco club in China today is about 150 square meters. And the cost to build one of these centers in China today is less than 50,000 US dollars. What is an average marketing cost per month? A comparable market, Indonesia. This is a question where I think once we have your information and the confidentiality agreement, we can provide you with the financials. And in those financials, you will start to see what the marketing cost per month will be. Obviously, with a digital business, the majority of the marketing, of course, will be digital, and which tends to be or allows the franchisee and the business owner to target their consumer base in a much more accurate and precise manner, and hopefully, if done well, in a very cost-effective manner. Now, clearly, in every market and in every business, we need to do marketing, but we believe that you will find that in this particular business, if done properly, you will spend less in marketing than a comparable English center that is in the more traditional brick and mortar format. Okay, we have Lisa, and Lisa is asking, what support do we get from Qooco? Well, very good question. We addressed some of them during the presentation, but as a reminder, you get a proven business model from Qooco. You get 24/7 support from Qooco. Now, again, your products are, are all digital, so you will get enormous IT support. You will get support in terms of designs for the Qooco Club. So your job as the franchisee, as the business owner of that particular Qooco Club, is to find the right location. You would then provide the dimensions of that location to Qooco, and the Qooco team will design that particular club for you, and you would then hand that off to your architects to do a detailed design to ensure that all safety and health regulations are complied with in the local markets. And then, of course, you would begin to build and open that particular Qooco club. So, enormous support from a design standpoint, enormous support from an IT standpoint, and not to mention the fact that Qooco and its team of education experts and technology experts continue to improve the products, continue to improve the artificial intelligence being used in the products, continue to add new grade levels to the programs, et cetera, et cetera. So that new product development continues forever as long as you are a franchisee in good standing with Qooco. Justin asked, what are the student fees? Really, what we are finding in China again is in order for a student to go through one grade level for 12 months, they must purchase one license. And that license is being sold in China for 1,000 US dollars. And that license allows the student to go through a full year's program with Qooco for one particular grade level. Now, again, Qooco and its franchisee will purchase that license for $200 from Qooco, right? So you, as the franchisee, Justin, you would purchase that license per student at $200. You would then turn around and sell that to a student for 1,000 US dollars. And we believe that is a very, very affordable fee, not only in China, but in many parts of Asia today. And that is part of the reasons why the business is so very, very profitable, because you get around the fact that you don't need a team to import anything. There's no importing of materials. There's no printing of anything. There is no waste, right? You basically sell on demand, basically. So it is you cook it to order if you're in the restaurant business, right? So that means zero wastage, zero spoilage. Hope that answers your question. Um, so here the question by Justin is, can I decide the tuition fee I charge my students and customers? At this point, Qooco is requesting that their franchisees charge $1,000 per license, per grade level, per year. They've had enormous success in China already and in other markets already throughout Southeast Asia. They do not want the brand to be positioned as low end. They believe this is a great value. And of course, with the high retention rates that they have experienced already in one of the most difficult and competitive markets, being mainland China, they believe this fee is not only fair, but a great value that over delivers results for their students. So At this time, they are requiring that franchisees charge $1,000 per license to students. Okay, I believe we have now ran a few minutes over, 10 minutes over our scheduled 1 hour webinar. I thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Clearly, in 1 hour, we cannot answer everybody's questions, and we certainly cannot explain fully the unique advantages and benefits of becoming a franchisee of Qooco. We will do so with you on a one-on-one basis as a follow-up after this webinar and in the next few days. Once again, thank you. Be safe, and we look forward to speaking with you again. I will now hand this presentation over to Robert.
So thank you very much, Sean, for telling us all about Qooco, and we thank everyone for attending. Our company, VF Franchising, offers a wide variety of franchises in food and beverage, education, services, and retail. And we regularly run business matching events throughout Asia and webinars. So please keep in touch with us, keep checking our website or Facebook page, and we look forward to following up with you for more detailed discussions about Qooco. Keep an eye out for our email, which should be coming to you in the next couple of days. And that's it for this webinar. Thank you very much. And